Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on something pretty unique, I think. A deep dive into how getting told no can sometimes, unexpectedly, lead you to a yes. It's not just about blind optimism, though. It's more about, understanding the actual mechanics behind how certain doors open when the usual ones seem firmly shut. And we'll be doing this through the lens of one person's story, someone named Travis. He was facing, well, a lot of financial rejection. The situation I think many of us might find familiar, unfortunately, feeling like everywhere you turn, it's just another closed door. But for him, there was a turning point involving a service called 15mfinance.org. So this deep dive is really about pulling out the key lessons from his experience and also looking closely at the details of the service that helped him shift things.
Exactly. And, Travis's story, it really taps into something universal. That feeling of being stuck or rejected. It could be financial, sure, but it could be career stuff, personal life. It happens. Our role here today really is to go beyond just his story and dissect why. Why do some solutions click when others just don't? We're going to focus on the specific things highlighted in the source material, the attributes that seem to make a difference. The idea is to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to understanding this particular way to maybe bounce back financially, so you can maybe spot similar kinds of opportunities in your own life, whatever challenges you might be facing.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. So Travis,
Yeah.
he described his situation as, well, rough. That was his word. He needed funding pretty desperately. We don't know the exact reason, maybe a business idea, maybe education, maybe just getting back on his feet. But the need was real. And he told us, banks turned him down flat. Online lenders, same thing. Nope. Even tried close family, apparently, and that didn't work out either. Talked about feeling really defeated. Like all those normal conventional routes were just slamming shut. Boom, boom, boom. And that emotional weight, right, of just constant rejection.
That's a heavy thing.
So many people can probably relate to that feeling.
Oh, absolutely. It really is that feeling of being consistently shut out, especially when you feel you genuinely need that help. It's incredibly isolating. It's not just about the money, is it? It hits you emotionally, too. And it brings up a really important question. When you're hit with that kind of wall, that pervasive no, what has to change? Is it your mindset? Or maybe more critically, what needs to be different about the solution itself? What actually makes an alternative supportive when the standard systems just aren't working for you?
Right. And that's exactly where Travis's story pivots. It gets really interesting here. He said things changed when he, quote, stumbled on 15mfinance.org. Said he was pretty skeptical initially, which makes sense after everything you've been through. But what made the difference, what he really emphasized, was that their process felt genuinely different. He specifically mentioned they actually listened to him. Imagine that. And he found no crazy hidden fees, no runaround, his words again. Just real people helping real people.
Yeah, that listening part. That's incredibly powerful, isn't it? Think about it. When you've been getting form rejections, maybe automated emails, or just hitting policy brick walls, what does it actually mean when someone or some service genuinely seems to hear your specific situation? It suggests a shift, right? From just a transaction to something more human-centered. And the transparency he mentioned, no upfront fees, that immediately starts building back some trust. Trust that's likely been pretty battered by all the previous no's. It really makes you think, how rare is that truly human touch in finance today? And why is it often missing? Are there systemic reasons?
That's a really good question. So, okay, he applies. Travis told us that within days, he actually got a call back. They worked with him, figured out a solution tailored to his needs, and then boom, he got the funding. He called it life-changing. So the speed, clearly, and that ability to personalize the approach instead of just saying yes or no based on a rigid checklist, that was everything.
Right. And if we zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger picture. It really underscores that effective help, especially for complex individual problems, often isn't one size fits all. Travis's experience seems to highlight how crucial it is for a service to be able to, well, quickly grasp unique circumstances and adapt. Be flexible. This idea of a tailored solution. It's not just about getting the approval, the yes. It's about getting a yes that actually works for your specific situation, not being squeezed into some generic product that doesn't quite fit. That flexibility, that responsiveness seems like a key feature of systems that truly help.
Okay, so let's dig into those key differences a bit more. Based on what Travis went through and what the source material tells us, there seem to be a few core principles explaining why 15M Finance worked when others didn't.
Absolutely. Let's break those down. The first one that really jumps out is about shared risk, you could say. Travis mentioned no upfront fees. You don't pay unless you actually get approved. Now, think about that from the perspective of someone already in a tight spot financially, being asked to pay before you even know if you'll get help. That's a huge barrier, psychologically and practically. So this no upfront fees thing, it's not just a small detail about cost, it feels like a statement. It builds trust by saying, we'll take on some risk here too. It signals, perhaps, some confidence in the person's potential rather than just demanding proof up front that they're already okay financially. That's a powerful way to start, isn't it? A truly supportive approach.
Yeah, it really is. And then there's the personalized help aspect he mentioned. Real advisors, not bots. That sounds almost revolutionary these days with everything being so automated.
It really does. And beyond just the feeling, the subjective experience of being heard, what's the actual practical benefit of a human advisor when things are complicated? Maybe it's about understanding nuance, things an algorithm might just miss, or maybe offering creative options that aren't on the standard checklist. It speaks volumes, I think, about the value of human judgment, maybe even empathy when you're navigating difficult or unusual situations. When your circumstances are unique, that human connection, that bit of understanding, it can make all the difference. Something pure data processing just can't replicate, perhaps.
Hmm. And the speed, too. That was impressive, Travis said, within days. Some sources even suggest approvals can happen in like 48 hours. When you're in a crisis situation, needing funds urgently, that kind of speed isn't just nice to have, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
critical.
Absolutely critical. Speed in a crisis isn't just about convenience, it can be genuinely life altering. It dramatically cuts down that awful period of uncertainty, right? It lets
Yeah.
people move forward, start rebuilding, make decisions quickly. This really highlights a principle of, let's call it responsive support. When help comes fast, when it's decisive, it changes the whole feel of the challenge. It suggests that systems designed to be truly effective often prioritize being agile, cutting through red tape rather than getting bogged down in, bureaucratic delays.
Okay, and here's the bit that really stood out to me from his story. Maybe the most powerful difference.
Mm.
They apparently help even if you've been rejected before. I mean,
Mhm.
Travis's whole narrative was defined by prior rejections, and yet they were still able to find a way to help him. That's kind of amazing.
It is amazing. And maybe the most profound insight here, if we think about the bigger picture implications, so many traditional systems, they lean heavily on history, right? Past performance, credit scores, previous applications. And unfortunately, that can trap people in a cycle of no. Once you stumble, it's hard to get back up in their eyes. So to look beyond those past rejections, that requires a completely different way of assessing things. It suggests looking at maybe current potential, future viability, instead of just relying on rigid criteria that might not tell the whole story at all. What does that tell us about resilience, about the importance of second chances, and about the need to find systems, find approaches that don't just write people off prematurely based on past difficulties? It's a big thought.
Yeah, it really is. And that, I think, brings us toward the close of this particular deep dive. Travis's story is just such a potent reminder that, rejection doesn't automatically mean it's the end of the road, especially when it comes to something as vital as your financial well-being. His experience really highlights the power of finding those other paths, as those alternative routes paths, that might be more personalized, more principles-driven when the main highways seem blocked off.
Exactly. His journey and the principles we've kind of unpacked here, that idea of shared risk with no upfront fees, the human guidance, the speed, that crucial element of offering second chances, it offers a really compelling model, doesn't it? So here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away as you navigate whatever obstacles you might be facing, financial or otherwise. Based on what we saw with Travis and the specifics of how 15M Finance operated in his case, ask yourself this. What assumptions might you need to challenge when you're looking for solutions, especially when you feel stuck? And how could those principles we talked about, transparency, speed, tailored support, that human element, how could applying those help you discover new opportunities, new ways forward in any area where you feel like you're hitting a wall?